Importantly, the starting height is an assumption. This assumption simply shifts our graph up or down depending on the value we give our starting height. As a convention, we will call the starting height of our point as a height of 0.
So we originally did this graph right here, and for this one, we had our initial starting point since both of them deal with a square. Wow, that's so pretty. This for this one over here,
Whoa.
we started the middle point as 0. Well, for this one right here, we started. Oh, that's not a square. We started this point right here. We started this as 0, this bottom point as 0. And so originally for this round right here, the reason we started it at 0 was because we kind of just assumed that since we started at A point, which is the point right here, we would just make that as our starting point as 0, because you usually think of a starting point as 0. Well, for this one, the reason, I don't know, I just thought it could be changed different because, say, like for height-wise, like if you were dealing with like a Ferris wheel or something like that, like technically the height would be at 0 point here, like at ground base.
And then the only real difference in our graphs, besides the scale for each one, this graph, like our first graph, is just our second graph shifted down a little bit.
Okay.
So like we said when we set our point 0 as the midpoint, the graph is going to be like equal on both sides of the x-axis. So like this segment right here and this one right here correspond to each other, and this part here and this part here correspond to each other. So really the only difference is this one is moved, I guess it like straddles the x-axis equally, whereas this one, it's all in the like the first quadrant. But if you took like essentially if you did this with this graph, you would have the same thing as this graph, and if you made this the bottom of this graph, it would be the exact same thing, the same shape.
Very nice. I like the brackets.
Thanks.
Anything you would want to add to that, Gisele?
Well, originally for the second one, we had originally decided to make it exactly like this, right, when we first drawing it. But I kind of thought of it as like, this is if you had a, like, your floor base up here and then your basement down here.
Okay.
Well, this one is like a one-story house with no basement, right? That's why, I don't know, I just thought it would be weird, or not weird, it would be nice to see, like, it's the same, but it's different depending on your starting point. I just wanted to see the differences between the graphs.
Yeah, I think that's awesome that you guys did them slightly differently. And I think they both make a lot of sense. Do you guys have a preference in these two?
I like this one.
I like both of them, but I like this one better just because it looks a little bit more familiar.
Okay. So let's stick with thinking about the starting point at a height of 0 then.
Okay.
Having created two similar graphs with different starting heights, Zoe and Gisele compare those starting assumptions and decide on a convention moving forward.